Overthinking has to be one of the worst psychological self-inducing things you can go through. It affects every part of your life, from the clothes you wear to even little things like what type of drinks you order from the bar. I know some men that are afraid to order a colorful drink because they don't want to look feminine.
In the film.
Oh god.
Just like that. That was, I believe that.
So instead, they order the most disgusting tasting IPA known to man. And yes, I know, a lot of this is tied to insecurities, but overthinking is the first roadblock for a lot of people. Specifically, a lot of Gen Zers. Overthinking has done a lot of damage to Gen Z, where instead of doing something, they do nothing, which leads to a lot of doom scrolling and bed rotting, both of these terms being coined by Gen Z. So what is overthinking, and why do a lot of young people suffer from it? Overthinking is when you think and analyze too much about something that ends up being more harmful than helpful, or sometimes you try to find a solution when there is no problem. One of the main reasons people overthink is that they're trying to avoid confrontation, so they overthink to find the best way to avoid it. For example, let's say you visit the library a few times a week and you run into the same girl every time. Maybe you don't interact with her, or your only interactions are simple, awkward glances, but you develop a crush nonetheless. Let's say instead of asking her out or trying to start a conversation in some way to get to know her, you ignore her until eventually she stops going to the library or you stop going to the library and you see her for the final time. So you end up having these feelings of regret, and they never go away completely, they only dissipate. You know, those thoughts you get late at night when it's just you in silence. Why didn't you just ask her out? Most likely because you didn't think you were good enough for her. Most definitely because you were scared of rejection. You probably came up with scenarios in your head on how that rejection would go, thinking it will make everything awkward between you and her, even though it was already awkward to begin with. Maybe she will tell her friends and they will laugh at you, without you ever realizing that they did. Just the thought that they might have. What I'm trying to say is that whole situation is played out in your head. That's what you think will happen, so you don't try. Off a fake scenario, you overthink the situation. That is one scenario, one part of life that overthinking has done more harm than good. What was the worst thing that could have came out of that scenario? Awkwardness, never seeing her again, her avoiding you, her telling the librarian that you are harassing her? Unlikely. We sometimes over-exaggerate things so we don't have to do anything. We put worst-case scenarios on situations so we have an excuse not to take action, when in all reality, the worst-case scenario isn't that bad at all. That's a part of overthinking that holds people back, giving yourself an excuse because of worst-case scenario. For example, this really resonates with me. Not playing a sport for your school growing up because you don't think you're good enough. This is probably one of my bigger regrets of my K-12 years, where overthinking caused me to miss out on a lot of experiences. I only played organized sports for 1 year, 5th grade tackle football. I played center and inside linebacker, both really physical positions in football. Usually, the thing was that, at least in my area, people only ran the ball to the outside. That's it. It was very rare that anyone threw the ball. I think there was one team in our district that was able to throw the ball more than 5 times a game, and they dominated. So that whole season, like 9 games, I had like 1 tackle. I was so scared of physical contact that even in the few instances in which I could make a tackle, I just didn't. I would let the person with the ball run right past me. It was probably the most pathetic thing ever. I'm surprised my parents stayed to watch my games. Even in practice, I would do my best to avoid contact. We used to do Oklahoma drills, which is pretty much this. Kinda crazy that the coaches had us 11-year-olds doing this. The way I got out of doing this exercise was I used to always go back to the end of the line whenever I got close to the front, hoping it was never pointed out. It worked. I think I only did it twice. The reason why I was so scared of physical contact in a sport which demanded a lot of it was because I was scared of getting hurt. I came up with the worst scenarios in my head. What if I get a concussion? What if I break a limb? What if my testicles get twisted? I overthink so much that I was a glorified cheerleader on the field. In all reality, I most likely would have been fine. It was just a bunch of 11-year-olds giving each other glorified hugs. And this situation kind of influenced me in not playing any sport throughout middle school and high school because I sucked at 5th grade tackle football. I didn't even try. I overthink so much that this blip in my life influenced one part of it so heavily because I was thinking about worst case scenarios. Overthinking makes you in some way feel in control, that you overthink so much that you figured out every possible scenario in a situation, so you know how to handle it because you thought out every plausible scenario. Hey, maybe everything goes as you thought it would go, without realizing that you actually have no control because life is unpredictable. Quick example, let's say it's early 2020. You have 3 colleges you want to go to. These are the only options you give yourself. You thought about it constantly and heavily and came to the conclusion that you will be accepted to at least one of these 3 colleges. You Doctor Stranged it. Pandemic hits. Now, it's not feasible to go to any of these colleges that year, so you end up going to your local community college. You thought you knew what was going to happen, but there's going to be scenarios in which you would have never thought of. This isn't even the worst parts of overthinking. The worst part is feeling like you have to be perfect in order to do something really holds people back. This stems from overthinking. My whole life, I never really taken dating seriously, not because I don't want to be with someone, but because it just wasn't a priority. At least that's what I told myself until I realized I was setting these roadblocks for myself when it came to dating. I'll start dating when I have my own place, my own car, and a job. I think that's pretty reasonable, besides my own place part. Paying rent sucks. But even when I checked the boxes of all 3 of these things, did I start dating? No. I just moved the goalpost. Oh, I need a 6-pack. I need more money. I need to improve my personality. I just gave myself more excuses so I didn't have to start dating. I was insecure of myself. In my head, I think because of social media, if I wasn't the perfect man, no woman would be interested in me. Maybe that's the case for men on dating apps, but in real life, it's truly not. I was overthinking the situation. So instead of, just trying, I gave myself excuses on why I shouldn't try. Overall, overthinking is that invisible chain holding you back. And honestly, the only advice I can give you is that trying is better than not doing anything. Doing something is better than nothing. The reality is that most people don't care about you, which is a good thing actually, because the reason why we overthink so much is because we think people will judge us or reject us. But in all reality, people are just living in their own little world. They can care less about you. And if you fall flat on your face, who cares? Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and adios.